Today's devotion, still coming from the Symbols of Salvation Advent devotional book, is all centered around Luke chapter 1 verse 37, where it says, "For nothing will be impossible with God." And this is something that it's a really powerful theme throughout the entirety of Scripture. God, over and over and again in this story, he works in impossible situations. And I think there are a lot of different reasons for that, right? And depending on which instance we want to look into, you're going to kind of be drawn to one reason or another. But I think a couple reasons stand out to me, at least, as kind of being pretty consistently good reasons that God would choose to work through an impossible situation, as far as it is within our capability to understand why God does anything. But he does, kind of a side note, he does frequently explain why he does things. So as far as he has explained it, we can kind of understand what's going on. And he does explain this kind of thing a few times. So I'm going to run with it, and here we go. So the two top reasons I think that God works through impossible situations first are in instances of prophecy. He describes impossible situations and he works through them, and we say, well, why did he do that? And I think part of it is simply just so it's not confused for something else, right? If he were to tell a prophecy and he's like, the next time the clouds are white, this thing's going to happen. Clouds are white almost every day, right? That's not going to help you with any sort of specificity. But if you describe something impossible, and then that impossible thing finally happens, then okay, this is what he was talking about. So kind of it helps with specificity, right? Because it's something out of the ordinary. But that's more in instances of prophecy. I think even more generally than that, God works through impossible means to kind of keep us in check, because we have a tendency to take credit for things. And I think a great example of this is the story of Gideon in the Old Testament. So Gideon had a huge army, and and he was going to go up against the Midianites, and he's going to fight the Midianites. And God instructs him to cut down this army, to send half of his guys home, send more than, and he keeps giving him these instructions until Gideon ends up with a force of 300. Not to be confused with the movie 300. I digress. So Gideon, he takes these 300 people, by no means enough to win a battle against the army of Midian, which is this great host, and he wins, and he conquers, and the result of that is, a recognition that there is no way, even if Gideon were the greatest strategist in the world and his 300 fighters were just the best, there is no way he would have won that fight. And the only possible justification is that God was fighting on their behalf, that God had a direct hand in things. So God works through impossible means, because then we have no choice but to recognize his work. And kind of a corollary to that is when God works through impossible things, we see exactly how powerful and how incredible our God is. So that is our lesson for today. That kind of comes from this statement of, for nothing will be impossible with God, from Luke 1:37. So with that, brothers and sisters, go in peace, serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.